Hello, everyone. Welcome to myself, Max from Beanstalk. I've got a pleasure today in our 20 on 20 series to have garnered a really interesting individual from a specific area of food. I'm just going to go straight forward. I was a bit cheeky and looked at Peter Backman's website earlier, and Peter's website is really intriguing because it's candid, it's direct. It tells you what you want to know. And the headline title on Peter's website is Consultancy on the Eating Out Market. So just say that again, Consultancy on the Eating Out Market. And who of us doesn't want to enjoy eating out? Some of the best meals I've ever had have been eating out, but also in some amazing places around the world where I've been very lucky to have been able to sit down and participate. And not only has it been the food, it's been the sort of the theatre and the anticipation of that eating out experience. So eating out in normal times is such a big experience for all of us. We're really keen to get Peter on board because of his extensive experience within the eating out food service sector. And as Peter states, he wants to challenge ways of thinking about the market. And he's got decades of experience behind him with an unrivaled wealth of data-driven knowledge, international contacts, throughout the industry. And as he says again on his website, he's going to belie me for this. He opens eyes. So how does he do that? He opens eyes to brand new ways of thinking about the opportunity and its multiple opportunities for success. So come on, Peter, come on in and let's have a conversation about yourself and this mercurial sector of food. Peter, hello. Thank you very much for joining us today.
Hi, Max. How are you?
I am very well. So come on. How does it feel to be a film star?
Oh, fantastic! And I've got people queuing up outside already for me to sign their autograph books.
I've been a bit cheeky, everyone, because on the warm up with Peter, when we were just checking the tech, he was, if it's okay to say, Peter, you have been filmed yesterday in an amazing market in London.
Yes, I had the pleasure of being filmed in Camden Market to talk about things all to do with the restaurant sector, particularly delivery.
So no, I think it's all credit to you, Peter, that you actually are in a position that people are knocking on your door to get your expert advice. So just paraphrasing from your website, that you open eyes to brand new ways of thinking about the sector. Do you think that the sector is sophisticated or unsophisticated? That's why it needs someone like you to create that magic for them. What do you think?
Well, I think the first thing about the food service market, and that's whichever country you're in, is it's not a market. It's a whole mass of different markets. In my nerdy way, I define the market in about 100 different subsectors. You know, you've got prisons, you've got burger chains, and so on. And it's when making connections between those various sectors where they've got things in common, where they're different. And it's in those spaces that you find that the interesting things happen.
Well done. And not trying to big you up too much, but you are renowned as an international expert within the food service sector. So Peter, how did this all start? Did you just wake up one morning when you were a teenager and thought, well, where's my sort of a career going to go? It's going to go to food service, and off you went? How did you start? How did you start, sir?
No, okay. So I started off, I left school and I needed to get a job. I did chemistry in the sixth form and I sort of enjoyed it. And I got a job in a laboratory, and it happened to be a laboratory for a food company. I worked there for a few years and I didn't really make it because you need at least one PhD, if not two, and a Nobel Prize to succeed in that sector. So I got another job, and I'd worked out that people who were successful in life wore suits and sat at desks. So that was my job description. And I've got a job with a trade association in the food industry as their scientific officer. And I did that for a couple of years. Then I moved on to a company that did market research.
Okay.
And I hadn't been there very long. And they said, we've got this project. We don't know very much about it, but it's to do with eating out. And eating out is to do with food. You know food, you do it. And at that moment, I fell in love with the food service industry.
Wow. Well, that's fascinating. There's a slight parallel there with you and I, that my father was before he retired, he was a doctor of biochemistry, and obviously the intellectual genes missed my generation. For my work experience, when I was 16, I had to go work in his laboratory. So I was playing around with centrifuges and things, and I just couldn't get it. To me, it was non-tangible, and hence why my early beginnings were in agriculture, which I really loved. I needed something tangible. So for you, the tangibility was food, and that's where you then very, very quickly got the passion for.
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely. And my grandfather said to me, when I told him I got a job in a food laboratory, he said, "That's a very wise move, because we'll always eat."
Yep. Absolutely, and so many people have heard me say this line before, that in a world recession or a world war or a pandemic, people got to do one or two things. They've got to eat and they've got to clean. So if you're in the eating game or the cleaning game, you're always going to have a purpose in life. So
Yes.
so Peter, did you ever think to take more of a mainstream career, to go into food service as an account manager, as a commercial manager, and work your way up there? Because it's very difficult for people to get to the status where you are, of being an influencer within such a large sector. But your career obviously started with that trade group and worked its that way. Did no one ever knock on your door and say, "Come on, Peter, come and work with us full time. We could really do with you in our business"? Did anyone approach you on that basis?
No, nobody has ever done that.
Okay.
So I'm waiting here. If you're interested, knock on the door. I've always been in the knowledge business, and so it's selling things I know, selling my ability to find things out. That's what I've done. And I have worked in a commercial kitchen, but for a very, very short time, just as a trial, for me to try it, not to be tried out. I haven't sold products into the food service industry. I haven't driven trucks that deliver the food, and nothing like that. Yeah. But I perhaps, coming from where I have done, it's given me a huge opportunity to review the whole industry, and from prisons to upmarket hotels, as I say, Wormwood Scrubs to the Ritz, and the whole supply chain from farm to fork. Partly because I wasn't pigeonholed at any time.
Okay, and just to explore that point one more time, as we have done with a number of these interviews, Peter, why food? You could have gone into politics, you could have gone into banking, you could have gone into engineering. Why food? Why did you remain within food?
I guess partly because I feel comfortable doing what I do and knowing what I know. So stepping outside doesn't feel right to me. But also, it's a great industry, and food service in particular is really great, because it's all about being nice to people. It's the hospitality industry, and within the industry, I can't say everybody is nice, but the not nice people are a tiny, tiny, tiny minority. And, it's just a great business to be in.
Oh, Peter, well done. What a huge advocate. What a great way to describe an industry such as food service. It's full of nice people. What a brilliant way of promoting it.
Well, it absolutely is.
So come on, let's look at this the sector and the growth of it. Where I'm based in Bury St Edmunds in Suffolk. So it's a reasonable market town. It's got about 50,000-60,000 souls, as they say, within it. And a friend of mine he owns a hotel, and he has been in this town for 30-40 years, and he remembers 30 years ago there were but 5 restaurants in Bury St Edmunds. And today we have, I think it's 42 restaurants in Bury St Edmunds alone. So where's this massive growth of food service come from over the years? Has it been, what's been the driver for it? What's created that growth of food service?
Partly we've got more money, so we can go out more. 30 years ago, 40 years ago, going out was a treat, partly because it was very expensive, partly because there wasn't the choice. So that's the next point. The next point is it feeds off itself. So people go out to a place, but they don't want to go there every week because that's boring. So there's an opportunity for somebody else to grab that. And also, people nowadays live in a very large world, not their hometown, not their home country, but the world. They fly around the world, they see all sorts of different things. And so they feel quite comfortable experiencing different worlds in the restaurant. So there are a whole bunch of reasons, I think, why the sector has grown. And then it has attracted investment, which has led to more growth. And that's the wheel that's been turning.
That's fascinating, Peter. I remember in a village I lived in, there was a pub, and it was a very good gastro pub. And then, quarter of a mile down the road, a new pub was built, and we all were bemoaning to our landlord that, oh, isn't this going to be devastating for you that there's going to be another pub in the same village? And he said, no, actually, I'm really excited about it, because what it's going to do is going to attract people to the village. They're going to try our pub, and they're going to try my friend's pub up the road. It's going to bring more trade into us. And so 2 years on, when I went back to that pub, he was absolutely right that people wanted to try the two. So I suppose with people enjoying eating out, they want to taste different things and experience different theatre of displays, and hence another reason why the food service sector has taken off. Do you think?
Yeah, oh, absolutely. I mean, why are all the doctors in London in Harley Street? It's because that gives you the opportunity to try out 5 before lunch. If you take a town, Ludlow in Shropshire. Very few people have heard of Ludlow, but many more have heard about it recently, because there was one great restaurant, and that attracted another great restaurateur, and before you knew it, there were half a dozen. So people would then go to Ludlow for a weekend. Business for 6 hotels, 6 restaurants, and a hotel, all in one person. Wonderful.
Well done, Peter. So yeah, you're promoted Ludlow. I feel duty bound, I don't know why, to promote Burnham Market in Norfolk. So 30, 40 years ago, there was a very distressed pub called the Host Arms, and there was nothing else going on in this Norfolk town. And a ex-potato trader bought this pub, and before long, he had 3 restaurants within this amazing hotel that he developed and recreated for accommodation. And today, I think Burnham Market's now got 42 different shops and all the brand names, and it's created this huge north, what do they call it, Chelsea on Sea, that everyone wants to go to north Norfolk, because of the Host Arms and all the other gastropubs that got created around there. Yes, it's fascinating. It sort of created its own ecosystem. So Peter, I suppose we need to talk about where we are at the moment. We're filming this in summer 2020. We're just hopefully coming out of lockdown within the UK and also globally, and the food service sector has been so badly hit, because obviously they've all been locked down. And I know that you're working very hard with a number of your clients to help them get up and brush themselves down and get re-established. So do you think, as we get out of 2020, that it's actually going to put the food service sector in a better place once we've put our plasters on and we've managed to lick our wounds? Do you think food service is going to be in a better place for years to come, and the growth will continue?
In some senses, it is in a better place.
Wow.
Just prior to lockdown, there was too much growth, certainly in this country, in the States, and in a number of other countries. Too many outlets, not quite enough business, so that puts more and more restaurants on the margin. So what COVID did was clear out a lot of that excess capacity. That's a good thing.
Fascinating. Okay.
But it's done immense harm to the industry, because running a restaurant was impossible during COVID lockdown. It's just not possible to run a restaurant safely. We had to wait until the restrictions started to be lifted. But during that time, consumers changed and operators started running out of money. Most countries, there were various schemes for helping businesses survive, for paying people on furlough and all those sort of things. Different countries doing it in different ways. But the strength, the financial strength, was being draining out of the industry. So after 3 months of lockdown, the industry was weaker than it was, and consumers are more worried about safety and those sort of issues. Therefore, when lockdown restrictions are removed, they feel less comfortable about going out. There isn't quite the business that there was, or there's quite a shortfall of business, feeding into a weakened market already. And that means that the problems aren't over once people can go back to restaurants, because they don't necessarily go back in the right numbers, and the businesses themselves are weaker than they should be.
Got it. So it feels like, it's fascinating. So it feels like there's been sort of a period of natural selection, but bizarrely, that we're all aware of a number of the larger chains who are perhaps overextended prior to getting into this COVID situation. I remember, it must have been 18 months ago, he's now departed, but the CEO of Pizza Express, he spoke at a House of Lords function that I went to, and he said that the biggest problem that they had at that point in time were rates. The cost of the raw materials. Pizza Express brings a lot of products in from the likes of Italy, so they were seeing the likes of cheeses and oils going up in price, and also the minimum wage element. That the first person that you are greeted by within a Pizza Express restaurant might be on minimum wage. So how do you excite them, encourage them to give the best possible service to them when they are only on but minimum wage? So so Peter, being positive, being optimistic, say in a year's time when all of this COVID is behind us and we're back to the new normal, and we can all be within 50 centimeters of each other and sitting properly in restaurants. Do you think the high street restaurant sector is going to look completely different? Will we still have the same companies today in a year's time, or will they have gone, or will there be new entries, or the companies that are here today, will they remorphed into something else?
The answer to your questions is yes.
Excellent.
Okay, so it's simple to say, but the world will be different. But the eating out world will be different. Physically, the number of restaurants will be smaller. That probably means that there will be gaps in the high street, but that's a problem for all high streets everywhere, because it's not only restaurants that are going to be closing, there'll be a load of other things. But that's a problem, as I say, for the high street. But there will be other issues. You asked, will the same brands be there? Well, some of them definitely will be. Some of the big quick service brands will have done reasonably well through the COVID situation, because they've had multiple channels for selling their products, takeaway, delivery, drive-through, which haven't been impacted by COVID too much. So they've done okay, and some of them will be even in a better, stronger position. But dine-in restaurants and pubs which serve food will be fewer in number, and the brands will be different. Practically all the dine-in brands, restaurant brands, will be smaller. We're already seeing that there are quite a number that are either going out of business, or they're being reduced in size. Typically, the owner sells it, sells the business, and the buyer only buys the successful sites and the brand name. So you can easily find the estate being halved or made even smaller. So that will be different. We'll probably have more delivery. That's
Yes. Yep.
one of the things that has come out of the COVID situation. It has been the proof of concept for delivery.
Yep.
And customers will be more comfortable ordering delivery than they were. So you'll find that there are restaurants that do more delivery. The trouble with delivery is actually making a profit out of it, but by focusing the mind and changing the model, they will probably find ways of making a real success of it. And then, so you'll then find delivery specialists and dine-in specialists in a way that we haven't got at the moment. So there will be, those are just some of the changes that I can see happening as a result of COVID.
So, if Peter, it feels like it's evolution, not revolution, because I'm glad you mentioned the delivery market. Whenever I go into the likes of my town or London with my kids, we have this game of trying to count the number of Deliveroo riders and drivers, and just the proliferation of them. Just using my little county town as an example, 18 months ago, we didn't have any Deliveroo riders or drivers. And now we're spotting upwards of half a dozen going to our next big town, Cambridge. And they seem to be literally everywhere. So do you think there's actually an opportunity if people who are in the food service sector want to get into the food service sector, rather than having to have all the high costs and rental costs of a restaurant, could they not, and help me with the expression, Peter, could they not have a dark restaurant where they don't have anyone actually coming in, but all they're doing is cooking their amazing food and sending it out by these Deliveroo systems or Uber Eats? Do you think there's going to be a marked increase of those delivery concepts, those deliveries?
Well, if you're talking about dark kitchens, that of course has been on the cards for some time and been developed over the last couple of years. The COVID situation has been pushing that even more, because in effect all restaurants, whether quick service or full service, have, if they've been in business, they've been dark kitchens because they haven't been serving anybody out in the front of house. But the bigger question is what's going to happen in the future. And my view is, yes, we're going to see more dark kitchens, but you then got to look at the nature of that experience for the customer. The experience in a restaurant is you go in and there's nice people and they're smiling at you. Maybe they're wearing a mask, maybe they got gloves on, but at least you're made very welcome. A dark kitchen, your experience of the restaurant is a guy on a bike with a brown bag that he leaves on your doorstep. Yep. So it's a different experience. And to call a dark kitchen meal a restaurant meal is pushing it a bit. And it's usually justified by the fact, well, it's got a restaurant name on the bag, but it's not a restaurant experience. It's a different experience, and it's sort of midway between a restaurant and what you get from the supermarket. So you can see it as a new eating out or eating channel, if you like. And that means that, to my mind, there will be more specialists in that area. So we'll see retail, we'll see restaurants, and we'll see something in between.
Well done, Peter. Because in my preamble, before you kind of came on, I was saying about how some of my most favourite meals have been in the most amazing spots. It's all about the theatre of it. And friends of mine within the food service sector say how, especially in restaurants, it's all about theatre, Max, and hence why you see so many different concepts of people trying to grab that attention. And yeah, spot on. A chap coming around with a brown paper bag and leaving it on your doorstep and dinging your door for you to come to. Yeah, it's not exactly a romantic meal in that respect. So Peter, I've got to put you on the spot. If you had a well invested individuals who were coming to you to lean on you for your professional advice, and they want to get into the food service sector, what would your recommendation be? To go for a conventional restaurant, to go for a dark restaurant, to do something else, to not get involved in the sector per se? It's a bit of a cheeky question to ask you, Peter, but what would your advice be today to those sort of individuals?
Yeah, well, I say to people, if you want to make money out of the restaurant business, become a lawyer.
Well, there you go.
And the corny answer as well is, if you want to make a small fortune, start off with a large fortune.
Okay.
But it all depends. If you are in love with hospitality and cooking great food, you've got to have a restaurant. If you're turned on by developing efficient supply chains and doing things in the most effective way, then just have a dark kitchen. So it really depends. It's horses for courses, I think.
Okay. And do you think with the development on, say, with likes of retail, with the number of box schemes that have been created, and the likes of the established box schemes that are already out there, the likes of HelloFresh and Mindful Chef, and their exponential growth over the spring and early summer of 2020, do you think there's a direct move? Is there a change going to happen in food service, even more so, that clued up entrepreneurs can realize that they could serve a market direct and maybe not even use the likes of Uber Eats or Deliveroo and do their own thing, or it's a combination of a restaurant? Do you think we're going to see some really interesting changes happening within the food sector over the next 2-3 years?
Well, one of the changes that has come out of COVID has been the growth of restaurant meal kits. So not exactly like HelloFresh, and the business model is different because that tends to be based on a subscription model. But if you can go to chains like Dishoom or the Corbin and King chain, upmarket restaurants. Yeah. You can order a meal from them, which they will be delivered to you, but it's not quite ready. You have to spend 15 minutes finishing it off. So it comes to you and you take it out and you warm it up, you finish off the sauce, you pour it on, and you serve it at your table. Now, that market didn't really exist before the lockdown, and it's been driven by the lockdown.
Wow, because we've obviously had this big escalation of scratch cooking. So I suppose that if people have done all their scratch cooking during the week, but at a weekend they want to do something unique, what a great way of doing it. And Peter, it's fascinating with the likes of, say, Paris. If I can get these facts straight, that prior to 2020, some of the biggest issues that Paris had was the likes of Airbnb, because that was stealing the accommodation away from the hotel trade. Uber was stealing taxi rides from the conventional taxis, and there was I can't remember the name of the app, but there was an app where you could gain restaurant style food at only 25 euros a head, and you would be eating in someone's front room with half a dozen other people who you didn't know who they were, but that was part of the theatre of it. So yeah, so it's fascinating, the evolution that we're seeing. So Peter, do you think, although 2020 is, a lot of people are saying it's just got to be written off, so do you think the evolution, so not the revolution, the evolution of food service for the next 2-3 years, is it? I know it's a tough sector, but do you think it's a sector that people should get into, that people who are in it should stay within? Do you think it is a sector that is going to prosper?
Yes, it's going to grow. It can't do anything but grow from where it is right now. And I'm, the second half of 2020 is going to be a bad period with growth prospects. So yes, absolutely. That's not to say it's going to be easy. It's going to require flexibility and agility. It's going to require decent backing, but people like to eat out, and if we've learned nothing from the last 20 years, it's well, if we learned something from the last 20 years, it's that people want to spend their money in a restaurant.
Well done. So just Peter, just to wrap up, I'm going to put you on the spot again. If we've got these individuals who want to come into the sector and they just want to get some, excuse the pun, some takeaways from you, how can they create success? How can they be different? What would you recommend the buzz term, the USPs, the unique selling points should be to make a difference within the food service, within the restaurant sector? What would your recommendations be?
Well, I'd preface my answer by saying, it's whatever you want it to be. There are so many different opportunities. You can have a K10 chain of Japanese food running around your restaurant, or you can have black suited waiters, or the choices are absolutely endless. So be creative. Try to find something that is different in some way, but not gapingly different and stupid. Make sure you've got enough money behind you. That's the crucial thing in this industry. It needs funding, and it's usually subsidized by people's passion. Be flexible. If it doesn't work, admit it. I could go on, but those seem to me to be the fundamentals.
Well done. So I think to summarize, I just love your line that you said at the beginning of our chat, Peter, that the food service sector is full of nice people. And actually you think of all the experiences that we all collectively have had going into restaurants, or the people that we're involved with them. They want you to enjoy the food. They've got that passion for food. I think that's why all of us are in this mercurial sector of fresh food per se within the UK or internationally. It's because we have that passion for it, and we all want to be nice people and treat people as they want to be treated as well. But Peter, I've got to thank you very much for your time. And we'll, if you want to get in contact with Peter, so if you do not know of Peter, he is a world expert on the eating out market, on the food service sector. And if it's okay, Peter, to intimate, you're a bit of a gun for hire. So if you're a individual well-funded who wants to get into this sector, or you're a larger company or an investment house that needs specific advice, you just need to speak to Peter, and you'll see Peter's links for his website on the various postings that you'll see on this. So Peter, it'd be fantastic to get you back on, perhaps later in the year or in the new year, just to get your view as to how the sector is recovering. But I would hope that the future is bright, because, as you say, the sector is full of nice people and we all enjoy eating out.
Absolutely. And thank you very much for inviting me. I found it fascinating talking to you, Max.
No problem. So, watch out for Peter. Let's see how the food service sector prospers, and it will do. Peter, thank you very much for your time.
My pleasure.
Thank you, Peter. Thank you.